Greetings everyone, and welcome back to another Pardis Farms fruit review. Today we have a very special selection of heirloom tomatoes. These are tomatoes that were grown in last year's seed project and grown back this year. And funny enough, we have some brand new varieties, or at least it seems like we have some brand new varieties here. We grew approximately 15 to 20 different heirloom varieties, all in a little hoop house where they seem to have cross-pollinated. So we're going to dig into this and show you a little bit of what's going on here. You can see some of them are tagged, and these used to be or were initially Ondine Cornue or Ondine Cornue tomatoes, which look a bit like a pepper. So let's start with those ones. And you can see how it has this very odd shape. It's a bit elongated like a Roma, but it has those ripples like a very spicy pepper does. And it even has that little point at the tip that kind of reminds of a ghost pepper, just minus the dimple before it comes back out. You can see that very nicely over here, that it's very bumpy. It's a very hard tomato, and it feels a bit more light and empty than a Roma tomato would, kind of like a pepper does. So if you hold this in your hands, it really strikes pepper notes. And then we have this one over here, which is a red zebra. So we're going to go back and check the tags that we put on our trays to make sure that we even grew red zebra again. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a red zebra. It looks exactly like it. It looks like it's lining up to be that. And it even has very tough flesh and skin. These are extremely resistant tomatoes in terms of shelf life. So it's definitely a good one to grow, which is why we kept it as a selection for this year. Unfortunately, we were not able to grow as much as we wanted, but at least we have some of this tester, and it gave us a really fun mix. So this is kind of a solidifying point to what this beautiful tomato is over here, and we'll get into that in a second. So look at this absolute stunner. It really resembles the shine that a Brad's Atomic Tomato would have, which is one of the most popular varieties of heirloom tomatoes nowadays because it's very colorful, looks all kinds of colors, and that's probably why it has its name. So this seems to be a mix of red zebra and Ondine Cornue, or red zebra and Roma. Both of those plants were very close together in the greenhouse, so it makes a lot of sense as to why they would have mixed. The thing is, and what's really special about this, is that this is one seed out of probably hundreds, if not thousands, of seeds that we kept, and the chances of it falling on this one seed, or that one tomato that we harvested that happened to have cross-pollinated with Roma or Ondine Cornue, is very slim, as we didn't pollinate them purposely, and it just happened to happen. So it's either we were plucking tomatoes and we happened to rub hands on a different plant and some of the pollen ended up in another flower, or the bees did the job for us. Maybe even the wind, but we definitely did not do it intentionally, which lowers the chances of you having a new cultivar by quite a bit. Especially if you're going to grow out those, let's say, to give you an example, 1,000 seeds, there might just be one new cultivar in all of those 1,000 seeds. Now, if that one tomato that you harvested was one flower that was cross-pollinated, then it'll give you a few hundred seeds in that one tomato, and they should be of a different variety. So this is really cool and very exciting that we fell on this one, especially without even necessarily trying to. So yeah, we're gonna name this and hopefully keep these seeds very preciously and grow them again. Have a really nice time with that. Now, to pass on to the next one, to get back to this over here, this is what the red zebra usually looks like. So it seems to be like this is gonna start ripening with stripes, and if it does, we have a definite indicator. But regardless, we remember our red zebra is looking exactly like this and round. So you can see this one definitely has a nice point at the tip, which is very different than the one here on the left, and it's much more elongated, so it's definitely not the same anymore, right? Super, super cool. Extremely excited about that. It's honestly incredible to find these new variables or variances in these tomatoes. This is another one on the same plant that we got this one from, and you can see it's green and is going to start to ripen the same way. And you could also notice those little specks at the top, which this original zebra has as well. So definitely taking some traits from the parent plants there. Very, very cool beans over here. All right, and now we have these, which we showed already, Ondine Cornue. These are just really, really cool. And this seems to be a different Ondine Cornue cross. And as a matter of fact, taking a deeper look today with the plants, it was not on the same plant as this. So it's definitely an indicator that this might even be an entirely different variety. This seems to be an Ondine Cornue mixed with Aroma, which also makes sense. As mentioned before, they were very close together in the greenhouse. So this is really, really fun and very, very cool. And this one has a very pointy tip over here, super sharp. It even has a bit of a tiny little bud at the top, probably from where the flower was attached. And look at that. Absolutely beautiful. So this one is an entirely different mystery. We're going to see how this ripens and see if maybe it turns yellow. Who knows? Maybe this is crossed with a white wax. And then that gets us into the next one over here, which is this beautiful yellow tomato. So this was harvested green because we have this friendly little squirrelo in the back that absolutely loves ripping into tomatoes and seems to like just playing around. Sure, everybody knows about squirrel tails and how they mess with the garden, which is why we built the greenhouse. Unfortunately, this year we didn't put anything in the greenhouse, and some of the tomatoes were just outside. So he has a free-for-all and does whatever he wants. So we had to harvest some of these just a bit before to make sure that we could keep some of these cultivars. This seems to be a white wax crossed with a Cœur de Bœuf, which is an absolutely legendary tomato if you ask us. Cœur de Bœuf is one of the most prized tomatoes for its meatiness and just overall amazing flavor. When you cut into one, they have very, very few seeds, not much of that gelatinous seedy pulp, meaning like not so juicy, more fleshy than juicy. And it's almost entirely flesh, which is why a lot of people really, really love that tomato. And you can see here, this one has that kind of shape. It almost has that heart shape. You can see if we zoom in over here, it has a bit of that heart shape and these little ripples that are also a characteristic of a Cœur de Bœuf. Now, they do look different and they do look like a white wax as well from the top. If you look at a white wax on the top, it also has these ripples. And funny enough, this looks kind of like a blend between the white wax ripples and the Cœur de Bœuf ripples. The Cœur de Bœuf ones are a bit more, a bit less spaced out, and the white wax are a bit more spaced out, just as these would be, but they go in a bit deeper. So you can see now they kind of flatten out from potentially or possibly being a mix of both. The reason I say possibly is because we didn't intentionally pollinate a specific flower, tag it, and make sure that this was an absolute cross of one and the other. This could be a mix of whatever was in the greenhouse, which is extra fun. And yeah, I think it's just extra fun to know that it just came about like that. So you can see this one has that point, and that's a very big differentiator from the white waxes and even the great whites, which we had in the greenhouse, which is the only other yellow white tomato we had in there. They both have a dimple and they kind of go in versus coming out. So this is a really good indicator that it's a mix of a Cœur de Bœuf, and it would make sense because they were also very close together. So this is a very, very cool cultivar, as if we have a yellow Cœur de Bœuf here, this is some next level stuff. especially that the taste on the yellow tomatoes was fantastic. The acidity is extremely low, and it's just some really, really cool garden talk over here. Look at this stuff, and keep an eye out for some seed drops and as well as some new tomatoes next year. All right, guys, and if you have any other questions or want to talk gardening, throw some comments down below. We'd love to chat it up.